Hello and welcome to Strait Talk. I'm Ayse Suberker. The United States has removed Turkey from the F-35 fighter jet program. The move comes in response to Turkey's purchase of the Russian missile defense system, the S-400. The first shipment of the S-400s to Turkey have already been completed, and Turkey expects the system to be fully deployed by April next year. The U.S. is also considering further sanctions on Turkey over the issue, although President Donald Trump has reportedly expressed reluctance in this regard. Turkey has said that removing it from the F-35 program will adversely affect its relations with the longtime NATO ally, and that it will retaliate if the U.S. imposes any sanctions. The S-400s are not the only trouble spot in the relations between Turkey and the U.S. Turkey has also expressed its dissatisfaction over the U.S. proposal on the establishment of a safe zone in Syria. Other outstanding issues include the refusal of the U.S. to extradite FETÖ leader Fethullah Gülen. To discuss this latest escalation of tensions between the two countries, I'm joined by Hasan Ünal, who is the head of Political Science and International Relations Department at Maltepe University, and Tudor Onia, who is an assistant professor of international relations at Bilkent University. Gentlemen, welcome to Strait Talk. It's good to have you here. President Trump seems he doesn't want Turkey to be penalized because of the acquisition of S-400 missile systems, and he tries to convince his senators to find a way out of this deadlock. So, Hasan, what is next for Turkey-U.S. relations?
Well, it's anybody's guess, basically. There was a lot of guesswork about the purchase of S-400 missiles is going to leave the relations between the two countries. Where is it going to take it? The delivery of the S-400 missiles hasn't put a straight end to the guesswork. Now, we are basically now speculating as to what the United States is going to do, what the United States is going to come up with. It all depends on how Trump himself, because we can't talk about a Trump administration. There is quite a divided administration in terms of their response to what Turkey's purchase of S-400 missiles. Basically, you have hawkish ones in the administration who want to penalize Turkey as much as they could. On the other hand, Trump in particular says...
So there are mixed messages coming from the U.S.
Exactly. And then we are basically speculating under the circumstances as to what might happen, what would be the next. Well, the next would depend largely what attitude the United States is going to come up with. And a few days ago, when Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu made a statement, he indicated that even whether Turkey actually was cut off from the F-35 planes construction and all that program remains to be seen because it hasn't become officialized.
So, Tudor, there's much of a talking about the content of possible sanctions, but don't you think Turkey's removal from the F-35 program is already a sanction because Turkey invested in billions of dollars, now it's kicked out of it?
Yes, if it will go through. And this is still something that we have to see, because these sanctions actually can be rolled back. The thing is, bargaining is still going on between the two sides, and it will probably continue until the Russian system, the S-400s, become operational, which will happen next year. But until then, nothing is
certain.
No, well, I mean, it's not written down in stone, so things can still change.
So you say Turkey may come back to the F-35 program?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, at least from the perspective of the United States, this is something that is still in the game. Lindsey Graham has recently offered such a possibility. He effectively contacted the Turkish foreign minister, essentially transmitting this was an informal endeavor, saying that effectively if Turkey does not deploy the system that it has acquired, although of course, I mean, he didn't say what Turkey should do with it, because in that eventuality, Turkey might end up with two missile defense systems.
So,
well, so the possibility is that if Turkey doesn't deploy it, then of course these sanctions will simply, well, they will cease to apply.
So Hassan, if F-35 issue is not resolved in Turkey's interests, can we say that Turkey is forced to search for alternatives?
Well, Turkey has already indicated more than once that it has quite a few options about the next generation warplanes, what it is going to be. It can produce its own. It has actually made investment in that direction. It can also cooperate with the Russians in the production of the Sukhoi 57 planes, because the Russian side has been indicating that they are ready to co-produce the planes, even in Ankara, basically in terms of technology transfer and other important issues. They are very much conducive to Turkey's expectations, if you like.
So how will this affect Turkey's relations with NATO if Ankara cooperates with Russia on the next generation S-500 missile systems? And on the other hand, we know that our neighbor Greece already has S-300 missile systems, and back then NATO did not object to that. What do you make of it?
Well, not only Greece, actually. As far as I know, in addition to Greece, Slovakia and Bulgaria also have the same S-300 missile systems. And don't forget, it's been the United States which has been making all these difficulties for Turkey about this purchase of S-400 missiles, not NATO. The messages coming from NATO is being quite different. So NATO says basically
Turkey is a sovereign state and it can acquire whatever it wants.
It can purchase whatever it wants to, and or it can actually produce its own. Though they indicate, well, it might be better if you don't.
So Tudor, do you think is there a possibility of Turkey not activating S-400s?
Yes. Yes,
there
very
is.
much, very much so. I mean, this is because you have to understand that this has, of course, a technological component, but it also has a political one, and this has to be seen in regards to a bigger picture. The bigger picture being the outstanding differences that exist between Turkey and the United States, and this being used as effectively an issue by Turkey to make the United States give ground on these other differences that exist in the relation. Should these differences go away or things improve, then of course Turkey might consider giving in on this particular option. It is not something that, again, it's not something that is written in stone.
So Turkey is open to new proposals.
Yes, and it wouldn't be the first missile defense system that Turkey would cancel, although this time it has acquired it. But in 2013, there was a lot of discussion about Turkey acquiring a Chinese missile, the HQ-9, which is effectively, pretty much the Chinese version of the S-300. And that fell through 2 years afterwards.
Would you like me to say it? Well, the question is not to deploy these missiles is not an easy option for Turkey, because Turkey needs these missiles. What Turkey can do in return, in order to appease United States concerns, is that it can actually buy Patriot missiles in addition to the S-400s.
As Turkey says, its national security is at stake. The US and Turkey disagree on various issues as well, like Syria.
That's very good.
I mean, especially with the east of the Euphrates, where the terror organization YPG is holed up and is supported by the United Nations. What do you make of it, Tudor?
Well, again, I think, and this sort of links to what we have discussed previously, in the terms of Turkey needing a missile program of its own. This is something that has to happen. The question is, will this particular missile serve this purpose, or is it to some extent overkill because of the political complications, and also because it is a little bit technologically too sophisticated? It would be the type of missile you would want to have in order to be state of the art, in order to combat the best that exists out there. But the most likely adversary that you're likely to have is a non-state actor that will not have the means to field something like this, which means that, if you have capabilities that really exceed the threats, it might be a little bit wasteful, particularly since in this particular context, you also have to take into account political costs. And this is the relation with NATO. The fact that, of course, I mean, this missile, any missile that Turkey acquires would need NATO radars and NATO systems in order for it to be functional. And unfortunately, the way things work, this is not a mix and match.
Yeah. So, Hassan,
but these missiles are not going to be integrated into the NATO defense system. We have a huge army. Not all parts of the army and all the units are integrated into the NATO system, and not all of them are assigned to NATO. Okay, and this is going to basically function standalone. Okay, it's going to be totally under Turkish control, no Russian interference with that, and it's going to basically function standalone.
Given the current developments, do you believe that Turkey and US can reach an agreement over northern Syria?
Well, they would have to. Otherwise, I would think very bad things might come out of all that, because I suppose we are now, the two countries have an enormous mistrust now between the two. And this cannot go on like that. You are very reliable allies on the one hand, and you keep saying that. And then on the other hand, the United States is acting in connivance with a terrorist organization, which is outlawed not only by Turkey, but also by the United States. And then the United States side is been supplying that terrorist organization, and it's been basically contacting that terrorist organization at the highest levels possible, or diplomatically as well as militarily. This cannot go on.
All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it here, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me on Strait Talk. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been more than 2 years since Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt cut diplomatic and trade ties with Qatar and imposed a sea, land and air blockade. They claimed that Qatar supported terrorism and was too close to Iran, charges denied by Qatar. But the Qatari economy has been resilient and has managed to grow despite the diplomatic rift. In fact, Doha is now planning new mega projects, reinforcing the fact that the blockade did not affect its economy as well as ambitions. One such project is the Qatar Media City, which aims at developing media activity in the state and attract well-established and emerging international media brands. I was in Doha recently and sat down with the young and dynamic chairman of the project, Sheikh Saif bin Ahmed Al Thani. Welcome to Strait Talk, and thank you very much for your time. Qatar is already a regional leader in news as well as sports coverage. This new mega project promises the best possible facilities and incentives for international media organizations, and we understand that it has already secured significant interest from media outlets. Tell us what inspired you to come up with such an ambitious plan, and why now?
Well, thank you first of all for having me on your show. This is actually our first interview talking about Qatar Media City for many reasons. Qatar has a history in media, a history that started with radio and TV in the 60s, that was built and established for the purpose of the government, for the government to reach the information to the people. And in the 80s and 90s, which I call phase 2, a huge shift happened. Columnists that are thinkers, that are academics, started writing in our newspapers their opinion on government laws, on regulation, and so on. And we did not react. We then realized, and the people realized, that media is a platform for people, for citizens, to voice their opinion. So that's what I call phase 2.
Phase 2. And now comes the phase 3, I think.
No, phase 3 was in the mid-90s till 2004, where channels like Al Jazeera was established. You had 2 other local channels established, one in sports, Al Qas TV, which has more viewers outside Qatar than inside Qatar. We have a cultural channel, Al Rayyan TV, which was also established. Al Jazeera moved from just an Arabic into an English, into dozens of channels and languages.
But you say Qatar has a history in media, and you talked about the faces. But when we look at it, this decision has been taken and announced during this diplomatic crisis. Is this a reaction?
Well, see, first of all, Media City as a project was researched in 2005. A team was established in 2008 to implement it. But we did not see then that it was the right time. We were still establishing ourselves. Al Jazeera and all of these were as a sample, and a sample that succeeded. Al Jazeera now is an international network. No one can doubt that. And this international network was established by the independent journalists that worked in it. They had the space and the creativity to do their own shows, to do their own discussions. And as you know, the logo of Al Jazeera is, the different opinions.
Mm-hmm. So when do you plan on opening the Qatar Media City?
So just to go back, the ambition behind this project is an inspiration is from an ambitious leader, and that is His Highness. He asked to initiate this project in 2017, and we did it because we thought it was the right time. Now, to answer your question, is this a reaction? In the last 2 years, we have not just done this project, we have established the Free Zone Authority, which is in the works. We have established and kept on developing our labor laws for human rights. We have announced that our advisory council, we call it Shura Council, which is Parliament, will be holding elections. So in the last 2 years, this was not the only decision. Rather than see it as a reaction, see it as us moving forward, rather than just sitting, pausing, and waiting until this crisis is over. The crisis is behind us. We are moving forward. Our bilateral relationships are strengthening. We are a respected economic investor worldwide, whether you ask banks, businesses, countries.
So do you think the blockade will end soon?
This is something they started. This is something they can end. As I said before, and maybe I can clear it up more, this crisis is not the first. We've been through crises since the 80s. I will give you an answer on behalf of the generations of Qatari officials that have dealt with different crises since the 80s until today, that Qatar is not an easy target. We are an independent country. We are not a follower. We have our own leader that we follow, which is His Highness. We are an independent country, and we build our bilateral relations on mutual respect. We do believe in dialogue, as we ourselves have been mediators for different matters throughout the region and beyond.
So if we get back to the blockading countries, how will you attract the media outlets currently there, and how this will benefit Qatar locally?
Well, see, we already have almost 33, if I'm not mistaken, agreements between media outlets and media technology-based outlets. Let me explain to you one thing. Think of Qatar Media City as 3 categories: TV channels, publications, and social media. Now, to me personally, social media is the upcoming new media. That is a part that we will focus on. I will give you an example exclusively. We will have, for example, small studios that any vlogger or social media influencer can come. He will have everything he needs in front of him for free. He can film his YouTube video. He can edit them and that sort of thing.
So you will provide them with more facilities and opportunities.
We will provide them with the latest technologies in media, in exchange for social media, in exchange for these influencers to come and give a lecture in one of our universities, to come and like Qatar University, which has a huge media department, like Northwestern University campus, which is an American university.
So with this project, Qatar wants to become a hub of freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Well, see, our attraction point is that we will have no editorial limits. Okay. We will have a code of ethics. Now, this code of ethics, to simply explain it to you, is basically we, trust that those media outlets that come here are responsible for what they say, are responsible for their actions. We will not have any limitations on that sort. And the code of ethics is basically built on responsible media. And, for example, if a report comes out of a media outlet out of Doha, and this report upsetted one of the countries, here in Qatar, they cannot take them to court.
Okay.
They will be taken. They can go to the home or the headquarters and in their countries. So we will not have any dispute on the editorial side. But disputes such as commercial and so on, of course, will be there, but we hope it will not be a lot.
Okay, since the blockade, what has changed in the country in these 2 years, and how does this impact Qatar's foreign policy?
The last 2 years has definitely been a catalyst to speed up different fields. For example, we are now more self-sufficient in regards to different industries such as food and so on. Of course, cutting off the borders and being that those countries, most of our food and medicine used to come from them, we've dealt with it swiftly. And as you see today, people are living their lives normally. Nothing has really changed. No increase in prices. I think the crisis has been more positive to us than it was
before.
Negative.
So Qatar and Turkey enjoy great relations, and they have improved since this blockade. What do you say of the bilateral ties, and are we hoping to see more Qatari projects and investments in Turkey?
Well, see, Qatar and Turkey's relationship, I would consider it as a strategic relationship, a friendship, based on brotherhood, based on mutual respect, a relationship that started with both our countries trying to peacefully resolve different issues in the region. And from then, it grew. We had a strong relationship with Turkey way before the blockade. That relationship only became stronger now, and is continuing to become stronger day by day. Now, in regards to Turkish exports, if I'm not mistaken, it tripled during the last 3 years. We have invested more recently around $15 billion. There are future investments in Turkey.
So investments will continue.
Turkey, no doubt, Turkey's economy, no doubt, is a strong economy. I think no one can doubt that here or around the world. So we believe in Turkey's economy, and that is what our main purpose in investing in its economy.
Sir, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's all for this edition of Strait Talk with me, Ayse Suberker. If you've got any comments, do share them with us on Twitter with the hashtag Strait Talk. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.